Welcome to Smashing the Plateau. We help you get unstuck so you can do what you love and get paid what you're worth consistently. I'm your host, David Schreiner-Kahn.
I couldn't keep selling at the prices I was selling, so I doubled my prices the next day, and my sales never stopped.
Today on episode 594 of Smashing the Plateau, I'm speaking with the founder of Reeb Law, Scott Reeb. I'm going to ask Scott how he ditched the traditional business model for lawyers and launched a subscription business. Stay with us to hear all the details. I believe everyone should have the opportunity to do what they love and get paid what they're worth. On my podcasts, I've interviewed hundreds of successful entrepreneurs, many of whom run consulting or coaching businesses. And we've created a free ebook with 49 actionable steps from 49 of our popular episodes to help you smash the plateau in your business and your life. It includes tips to help you with your mindset, relationships, business development, and productivity. You can get your copy of 49 tips to smash your plateau at smashingtheplateau.com/tips. That's smashingtheplateau.com/tips. Now let's welcome Scott Reeb. As the official Zig Ziglar small business lawyer and a Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, it's no wonder that Scott is known as America's legal coach. For the last 2 decades, Scott has been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches shatter-proof their businesses by implementing specific strategies for structure, growth, and protection. Over the last 3 years, Scott has been sharing these strategies with business owners and coaches and watching them grow and succeed. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me.
Scott, let's start off by talking a little bit about what's unique about your business, particularly with your background and your expertise as a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a 25-year lawyer, spent the first more than half of my practice doing litigation, almost litigating about everything you can. And in 2012, I decided that my model was kind of broken. I was only getting people that were in really bad trouble, and then I'd fix it. It was too expensive and they weren't happy. And so they'd go make more mistakes without calling me. And so I had a vision for small business owners, entrepreneurs having this on-demand access like big companies do to be able to ask questions in real time. I didn't know how to build it. So I hired my first business coach, and we created what is now the Access Plan, which is a subscription model that gives entrepreneurs on-demand access 24/7 to my team so that they can get those answers they need, get their contracts reviewed, make sure their business structure is right. And we've been doing that now for 8 years.
Wow. And did you know anybody else who was a lawyer who was using this model when you set out to create it?
No, I never heard of anyone doing it. I wasn't sure how it would work. When I started out, like a lot of people, I started out as just me and an assistant. And I'm in a kind of a executive suite building. And so there's all kinds of entrepreneurs around me, and that we'd all, sit and drink coffee when we didn't have business. And they would talk about how they couldn't afford me and how they would love to be able to have some way of affording me. And so for a few years, I just worked on that idea of why did these guys who really need the help, why can't they afford it? And why can't we find a model to deliver that service? And it was kind of the beginning of all the subscriptions that we see now. Dollar Shave Club, stuff like that. And it just made me think there's got to be a way to deliver legal services that way. So we began that journey, and it's been an experiment, but we've got it down pretty well now.
Right. But I would imagine after 8 years, you probably do have it down pretty well. And I also imagine there are lots of things you tried that didn't work out so well along the way.
You bet. You bet.
So what, if you wouldn't mind sharing a few of those things you tried that you realized you needed to pivot after you tried them?
Well, like the first thing we did wrong was pricing. I was really low. I had my price very low because I thought I would have to be low to get business. And I very quickly discovered there were 2 problems with that. One, I was wrong. The people would pay more. And 2, my profit margins were just way too low. It wasn't sustainable at the prices I had set. In theory, in my model, it would have worked, but it just didn't work out. And so those are 2 main reasons. I just had my pricing wrong. The other thing I did wrong was a big part of the Access Plan is that we want to be very involved with our business owners and entrepreneurs. We want to know what's going on in their life and their business. So we created what's called a check-in call. And we were making them basically mandatory. And I set them, and the way I did it was I just started putting them all on Fridays. It was the first Friday of the month, and we had them all on the first Friday of the month. And very quickly, I had no Friday. And so we ended up having to spread them around. And then later I decided, you know what, they can schedule them whenever they want them. Here's the scheduling link. And so now I've got my time back. But for a couple of years, it was very hard for me getting work done because I had these huge blocks of time that were just taken up with the check-in calls, which I love. They're a lot of fun, but I couldn't get anything else done.
Right. And they're important.
Yep. Very important.
Yeah. I love that you shared your issue with the pricing, that you realized that you were pricing too low at the beginning. It's actually a really common scenario for consultants and coaches when they are early on in their business, especially those that have come out of a long career as an employee. They will often underprice themselves, thinking they need to in order to get business. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about how you learned that you could price higher and should price higher.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I buy a lot of books, and I'm a conference junkie. And so, I had, my working with the coach that helped me build it. Some of that was the trial and error, right? And so as we went through and got 10 people into the system, we were able to look at how much time they were using, kind of do some math and go, you know what, that's just not sustainable. And so then we started raising the prices. And truthfully, I had a big wake up call about a year and a half in, and by necessity, I raised my prices. I was on vacation and lost my entire team. They all left. And I came back from a week vacation. It was just me. And so I would have been in real trouble if I hadn't had my subscription plan, because I had recurring revenue and no more payroll. So that was great. The problem was I couldn't keep selling at the prices I was selling. So I doubled my prices the next day, and my sales never stopped. I just knew I lost a bunch of billing that the rest of my team was doing. The only way to make up for that was to raise my prices. So I raised my prices because I couldn't do more work. I didn't have the bandwidth. So I just raised my prices so I could do less work in the same time.
Yeah. How did you feel right before you pulled the trigger on doubling your prices?
Well, I was kind of already scared, period. So it was just kind of, I didn't have a choice. I had to do it. Because if I were to have signed up, say 10 more clients at the rate I was charging, it would have buried me. So I had to double the prices. And yeah, it's, anytime I've raised prices, I always there's just in the back of my mind, I'm not really worth that. And so you kind of have to give yourself a pep talk before you do the first sales call. And then if you have the right value stack, it's not the price. Your price should be well below your value stack anyway. And so as long as the value is more than your price, you're fine. And you're talking to the right people. And so it worked out great.
Scott, what do you tell yourself in that pep talk?
Yeah, it's kind of the Stuart Smalley. I tell myself that I am a Christian, that I was created by God for a purpose, and that God doesn't create junk, and that I am worth every penny that I'm asking for with the training and information and skill and knowledge that I have to be able to solve problems.
Well said. Well, yeah, one of the other things you mentioned is that you hired a business coach. How did you know that you needed to hire a business coach?
As a lawyer, we have to go to 15 hours every year of education. And I went to one, and a lawyer business coach was one of the speakers. I'd never heard of that. And this was kind of the time where I was really wrestling with, should I try something different? And so I called that person. That wasn't a good fit. They introduced me to someone else. I tried to work with them. That wasn't a good fit. And then eventually I found a friend that was working with a business coach in Tulsa and having great success. And so I did a phone session with him. He understood my vision and said, yeah, we can build that. Because I kept running into coaches that wanted to talk about my purpose and important things. But I'm like, no, I know what I want to do. I need you to give me a map to get at least halfway there. You don't have to get me all the way there, but at least get me from A to F. Give me something. And I finally found someone that was willing to give me a map. But it was just because I heard in that presentation that a coach could guide you through what you're trying to do, and so you're not alone. Because as entrepreneurs, I like to say, we're on an island most of the time. It's just us in our heads. And sometimes you got to get out of your head and tell someone else what you're thinking, what your vision is, and let them then give it back to you and see if it really makes sense. because we can kind of just get stuck and you can start either believing everything you say is gold, or you can do the other and believe that nothing you say is worth anything. And so you need to have someone else that doesn't have a real stake in it. They're objective, and that they'll just tell you what you need to hear, whether it's good or bad, and then tell you what to do next, and then expect you to do it and hold you accountable. And it makes all the difference. If I look back over the last 8 years, when I've had big exponential growth, it's because I've been working closely with a coach, and they've helped me and made me held me accountable to the action steps that I needed to take.
Right. And what is it about? I mean, what you described and what the coach does, on the one hand, it sounds very straightforward and almost relatively simple. Yet on the other hand, you went through several coaches before finding one that would work for you. What is so special about a coach who can do it in a way that's right for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just different types of coaching for different seasons of life, for one. And I think there's also different coaches have different skills. And for me, I needed a path. I knew the end. I knew what I wanted to accomplish and kind of what I wanted it to look like. But I just didn't know how to get there. And so I needed someone that could help me get there. And most of the coaches that I know that are in my program and that I'm friends with, that's kind of how they work. Everyone has they have different paths that they've kind of created, and they'll walk you down the path to get to your goal. I think mine was a little different because to that point, I didn't know of anyone that had ever built one. They didn't know of anyone that had ever built one. I've since run into others that were kind of doing it as well. But it was brand new, and so they were creating something that had never been created before. And so I think that was it. I needed a coach that was kind of up to that challenge of, I wasn't a cookie cutter. They work only with builders, and they're going to help me do a construction company, or they work with car dealers. I was a little bit different, and so I think I needed just the right coach, and I found the one for the job.
Right. That's actually an interesting description, because I've heard many people say, I want a coach who knows how to do what I want to do that will help me get there faster. So as an example, I want to build a subscription model. I want to hire a coach who knows how to build subscription models, which is very different than hiring a coach who has not done it either, but can partner with me on helping to create something that neither one of us knows how to do.
That's right. Yeah. And there's some coaches that won't, if they don't know how to do it, then they're not interested in trying to stretch and figure that out. And that's fine. I was able to find one that was a real out of the box thinker, and there's just nothing, he doesn't think there's anything he can't do. And so together with us both thinking that way, we did what everyone else couldn't do.
So let's fast forward to today. Talk a little bit about your current business model, how it works, who your ideal client is, and what kind of problems you solve for them.
Sure. Yeah. So the access plan starts right now. Our base plan starts at $699 a month, and then there's 3 different levels, more bells and whistles as you go up. So it just depends what you need for your business. And so we do strategy calls with each prospect to make sure that they know which plan is the best fit for them. And all of the plans include unlimited access to me. They all have my personal cell phone number. And then they have a scheduling link where they can schedule 15-minute, 30-minute, or hour phone calls or work sessions with me. And then, so they have that control. They don't have to, pay retainers or consultation fees. That's built into the plan. They never sign a contract again that hasn't been reviewed by the team. We create custom contracts for them for their business and their life. And then we make sure we do those coaching calls. And so they're getting weekly invitations to that. They get my weekly audio podcast. They just get all that stuff. And the people we work with I work a lot with online entrepreneurs and coaches, and that's a lot of fun. But we do a lot of brick and mortar businesses. I've got doctors, builders, plumbers, HVAC guys and gals. That's the kind of commonality is usually everyone's they've usually reached the $250,000 hurdle, and they're powering through the $500,000 and headed to $1 million. And occasionally I'll pick up bigger companies too. But a lot of people are, they're maybe 3 years into their business and they're really ready to grow and scale. And so we can help them do that in what I call a protected way.
What are some of the problems that they face where you can be helpful?
Yeah, a big problem that a lot of business owners have is that they don't know what they don't know about incorporating or getting an LLC. A lot of them don't have one. They've just got an assumed name. And so they're really running a danger zone. That's a huge problem that we can fix easily. And a lot of them don't know how to set up an LLC or corporation, what their tax status should be, what's an S Corp. Those are huge problems that entrepreneurs have, especially in the first few years, that we can jump in and solve. We have what I call a shatterproof business structure that we recommend for all of our access clients, to where they can separate their assets from their operating companies and run in a tax efficient way, but not be subject to asset seizure if something goes wrong. Because it's a crazy world. There's like 20 million lawsuits a year filed in the US. So we do those things, we solve those problems. And then the other one is we make sure they're using clear written agreements that are enforceable. A lot of clients are doing handshake deals when they come to us, or they've downloaded something from the internet or borrowed from a buddy, and they're just not confident that it has the right things in it to hold up if they were to need to go to court. And I like to say that written agreements just keep honest people honest. And a lot of times, if you can just go back to a really clear document and say, look, we both said we'd do this here, I've done this, but you haven't, then it's a reminder instead of you having to call someone a liar. And that just never goes well. And so that's a huge problem we solve. And the other is that we help them understand what their intellectual property is and how to protect it, and then how to not use other people's intellectual property, because there's a real temptation in our world to copy things. Some of it's innocent, because you'll pull up, for instance, a Google image. You'll search for an image of something you're wanting to work on for an email or for a website, and you see this pretty image. You can download it. It must be free. And so you put it on your website, and then suddenly you're getting letters demanding thousands of dollars because you've infringed their copyright. Or you've used someone else's brand name, and now you're infringing on their trademark. And so we're able to help them understand how that works, how to protect it, and how to make sure they're not making some of those really big mistakes that can, especially a young business, it can bankrupt them. It just doesn't take, you get a $10,000 bill because you infringe someone's copyright. A lot of business owners can't withstand that, not in the first few years.
Yeah. So what can they do instead if they get one of those bills?
Well, if they get one of the bills, they can, if they have us, because negotiation of claims comes with their access plan, then we get on the phone with the offended person and get them to take a lower number. They don't have to do that, but a lot of times they will compromise and take a number as long as you pull down whatever you're using. But you're really on the hook. There's no defense. There's no innocent infringement. It's, if you did it for commercial purposes, you're on the hook. And if they were to file a lawsuit, you would lose, and you'd have to pay their attorney's fees. And if you made money off of their image, you would have to pay the lost profits. So you want to have someone to walk you through that. I mean, we get, 5 or 6 of those a year that come in the door, where that's how we'll get a client, because they got that letter.
What are some of the common challenges for consultants and coaches that are doing work that may be covering a large number of states in the U.S. or perhaps international? Because it's so easy to do international business today because of the growth of all these online resources.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that the entrepreneurs in general are having working nationally is trying to keep up with sales tax, for one, making sure, do you have to register as a foreign entity in those states? And every state has different requirements. And so as you're expanding your business, you have to really pay attention to those things. You don't want to get sideways with sales tax. That's a big issue. And that's what we see a lot of. And we do have several multi-state entrepreneurs. And then the coaches, they're generally okay with just their coaching service. It's when they start selling other things, like, which we all do, where we're selling books and courses. You have to really watch then, are you appropriately accounting for the sales tax for wherever that transaction is taking place? And so then you need to have a good lawyer on your side, but you also need to then work with a CPA that understands interstate commerce.
Yeah. Life is complex.
Yeah, it does not get less complex when you go online. That's for sure.
Yes. Scott, what do you see as some of the future of businesses that serve your audience, particularly those that provide legal services? It sounds like you are in the forefront of creating a particular kind of business model. What do you see happening in your field?
I think for small business, I think the billable hour is really dead. They just don't know it yet. I think small business owners are going to get tired very quickly of it, and they should they're going to start requiring their lawyers to either bill like we do with a subscription model, or do flat fee projects and have to live by their quote. Because right now, and for the last 50 years, lawyers can just charge whatever they want to charge. They can take as long as they want to take and make as much money as they want to make. And it's just not fair. You don't want to be paying a professional that way, because there's a conflict there. When they can make more money by spending more time, they're not being efficient, and that's not in your best interest. The lawyers are going to have to start acting like businesses and knowing what things cost and giving accurate project quotes. And so that's what if someone isn't an Access client and wants a project, we give them a flat fee quote. Sometimes I make money, sometimes I don't, just like my clients. And that's what's coming in the legal world, because these inflated hourly rates just won't last, and things are going to get tighter. Small business owners have learned in the last 18 to 24 months that they can be much more efficient. They've had time to look at their numbers and the things that they need and don't need, and they for sure don't need to pay lawyers by the hour. And so you're going to see more and more lawyers switching to my model. One, because the clients demand it, and then the other is that it's easier to deliver than traditional services. I don't need the staff I used to have. I don't have to have them. I can have people all over the world helping me deliver this world-class service without having to have a big footprint. And that's what people want. That's what lawyers want. They want to have lifestyle. They want to have time with their families. They want to be able to control their schedule. And so you're going to see more and more professionals switching to a subscription model. It's changed everything for me.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're way happier than you were 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's night and day difference. And there are still things that I do that I don't like to do, but we're working towards eliminating those so that I can only do, if there's red light things I don't like, and green light things I do like, that I'm doing more and more green light, and that the red lights are becoming very few.
Sounds good. Well, Scott, we've covered a lot of ground about how you have developed your current business model and how you run your business, some of the problems that small business owners face, especially consultants and coaches when it comes to legal issues. If someone wants to go deeper with anything we've discussed, access any resources you have, like your podcast, or get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go?
If they will go to reiblaw.com, REIBLAW.com/smash, SMASH, reiblaw.com/smash. We have a special page set up there where they can download my ebook, 5 Strategies to Shatterproof Your Business. And they can book a 20-minute laser legal coaching session with me. It'll be me. So we can talk about whether their business is shatterproof, or if there's some things they need to do to make it better.
Sounds great. Well, Scott, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for joining us on Smashing the Plateau and sharing your insights. My guest today has been the founder of Reib Law, Scott Reib. Thank you again, Scott, for joining us.
Thank you, David. It was great.
When you visit the Smashing the Plateau website at smashingtheplateau.com, you'll find a summary of each episode along with the links we mention on the show. Today, we learned how Scott ditched the traditional business model for lawyers and launched a subscription business. I believe everyone should have the opportunity to do what they love and get paid what they're worth. On my podcast, I've interviewed hundreds of successful entrepreneurs, many of whom run consulting or coaching businesses. And we've created a free ebook with 49 actionable steps from 49 of our popular episodes to help you smash the plateau in your business and your life. It includes tips to help you with your mindset, relationships, business development, and productivity. You can get your copy of 49 tips to smash your plateau at smashingtheplateau.com/tips. That's smashingtheplateau.com/tips. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. I'll see you on our next episode.